is Charles Osgood.
We've Only Just Begun was a big hit for the Carpenters and for Paul Williams. The man whose other songs include the Academy Award-winning Evergreen is a bit of an evergreen himself, surviving, even thriving, after some years of obscurity. Anthony Mason has his story.
If you lived through the 1970s or early 80s, it was almost impossible to avoid Paul Williams. His music was all over the radio.
Just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio. Hanging around.
He wrote huge hits for the Carpenters.
Rainy days wonders always get me down.
Barbra Streisand.
Love, soft as an easy chair.
Even the Muppets.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
He sang his own songs, too.
And when there's no getting over that rainbow.
In what one critic called the craggy, forlorn voice of a sad munchkin. At 5'2", he didn't really have the stature of a celebrity, but he became one.
It didn't take long before it seemed like you were everywhere.
Yeah, I said yes to everything. I was just a little media whore. It was horrific.
He appeared on game shows.
I love a party.
Oh, one of our favorite people, Paul Williams.
Variety shows and talk shows. Johnny Carson loved him. He was on The Tonight Show 50 times.
Would you welcome Paul Williams?
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams. Paul Williams. Paul Williams.
I love you, John.
And then there were the acting roles in The Odd Couple, The Love Boat.
Would you please marry me?
Policewoman. But then, by the end of the 1980s, Williams all but disappeared. And filmmaker Stephen Kessler, a longtime fan, assumed the worst.
I always thought he died too young.
Until he started looking into Williams' life.
And I found out something that amazed me. He's not dead.
Kessler's new documentary, Paul Williams, Still Alive, is an affectionate look at the songwriter's descent and recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. And it's put Williams back in the very place he'd fled for the past 2 decades, the spotlight.
Are you happy with the film?
I'm really happy with the film.
But Williams didn't want to do it at first.
There's nothing to be more pathetic than some little old man going, "Please, sir, may I have another cup of fame? Just if you'd throw that camera on me for just one more time." You know, I had a sober lifestyle, and I didn't know if I wanted to go poke the bear again.
This is the sort of the Hall of Fame.
This is the Hall of Fame. This is all of these songs are ASCAP songs that have won the Oscar. You know, so
3 years ago, Williams was elected president of ASCAP, the organization that represents music writers and publishers.
This is you here.
This is me.
He's up on the wall, too. He won his Oscar for Evergreen.
I've been nominated 6 times. This is the only time that I've ever won, and it's the most amazing moment. You walk on that stage, you hug Barbra Streisand. What I actually said was I was going to thank all the little people. Then I remembered I am the little people.
Born in Omaha, Williams was always the smallest kid in class. He was 13 when his father, an architect, died, and he was shipped off to live with an uncle in California.
Did you have any musical education as a kid?
None. No, I didn't. But I could write, I could play enough to write. Just an old-fashioned love song playing on the radio. It's as complicated as anything Beethoven ever wrote.
His breakthrough hit would come from a tune that was never meant for the radio.
We've only just begun, had all the romantic beginnings of a bank commercial.
We've only just begun to live.
But the Carpenters happened to see the ad.
We've only just begun.
And then an angel sang it, and everything changed.
White lace and promises.
Then the floodgates opened. 3 Dog Night. Helen Reddy.
You and me against the world.
And David Bowie.
Fill your heart with love today.
would all record Paul Williams songs.
Do you have a favorite among all of those?
Rainbow Connection has to be my favorite song that I've ever written.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows?
In one sentence, you know that he's got an inner life. It's written in Kermit speak. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? You know, he's actually very tough sometimes.
To write in the voice of a frog.
Williams says his own vulnerability came out in his music.
Where did that vulnerability come from?
You know, when you're in high school and you're 4'6", I just didn't fit in.
That, says Williams, is why celebrity became so intoxicating.
Something switched in me. You know, I went from being different to being special, and that's addictive.
In the documentary, Kessler confronts Williams with one of his most embarrassing moments, when he guest hosted the Merv Griffin Show, while obviously high.
It's the most grandiose, vapid, shallow, arrogant, nasty little creature that I had become. But I realized that if this is going to be a film that ultimately is about recovery, that it's got to be in there. So we put it in.
I lost 40 pounds through willpower and about $3,800 worth of amphetamines.
You got to show where you hit bottom.
It's still hard for me to watch.
It would take 2 trips to rehab before Williams finally cleaned up his act.
March 15th, 1990 is my sobriety birthday.
Right.
In the last 22 years, I've been given a totally different life.
He volunteers as a drug and alcohol rehab counselor. And as head of ASCAP now,
it's the greatest honor I've ever been given.
He represents other songwriters.
I have a black belt in backslapping. You know, it's like, and at my height, you got to be careful because I get a little more familiar sometimes. Oh, I'm sorry.
And then there's the documentary. Yes, Paul Williams is still alive. And the film he was reluctant to be a part of is even generating some Oscar buzz.
When the lights sort of got turned on you again for this movie, how'd that feel?
Annoying.
You don't look that annoyed.
Yeah. When the media reared its loving head,
yes,
the response has been so respectful. Has been really kind. I mean, it's been really kind. And who doesn't want to need a little more kindness in their life?
Where have you been?